I just came across High Rocks.
Hmm.
I've never heard of this in my life. Never. And I just maybe 3 weeks ago ish, I come across it. I was having a conversation with his name is Sam Tooley. He is the
Yeah.
founder of Alpha Fit Club up in New Jersey. They franchised a bunch. He's like a 10,000 just did like a little mini video series on him or something like that.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Crazy fit kid. Anyway, and he's like High Rocks and DECA. I'm like, what the fuck is he talking? Like DECA, the
I don't know
steroids?
what
Like,
High Rocks is. What is it?
so High Rocks is if CrossFit is obviously what CrossFit is, and you look at the
Yes.
athletes into it, what's the most popular fitness methodology in the world? Running.
Yes.
It's like High Rocks was a business idea. It was like, well, CrossFit's great, but what we're going to do is we're going to create a CrossFit event that's endurance based. So it's like it's an hour long, it's a race, and the race is the
Right.
same race everywhere, every time, never changes, because that's what endurance runners understand. 26.2,
Yeah.
26.2, it never
Yeah.
changes. So it's a
Yeah.
1,000 meter run
Yes.
followed by a fitness event. So it'd be like something like a very, very heavy, like 420-pound sled pull for like whatever,
Yes.
you know, and then it's another 1,000 meter run. And then it's another fitness
Nice.
event and 1,000 meter run and another fitness event. And you do 8 fitness events, like one's 100 wall balls,
Yeah.
and then 8 splits of 1,000 meter runs. And so, yeah,
Is
like
this in
that guy,
Australia, man?
it's
Sign me
everywhere.
up.
It's all over the fucking world. Like I couldn't believe.
Hey,
So it started in Germany
yeah.
and it's huge. And I'm like, this, and like you look at the athletes in it, they don't look like CrossFitters. They don't have the physique of CrossFitters.
Yeah.
Even the guy who's the best, Hunter McIntyre. So
Yeah.
he was like, I think he competed in CrossFit. I don't know if he did real well in CrossFit, but he's a
Yeah.
freak endurance athlete. And he is like the world champion. He's like the Rich Froning of High Rocks. But
Yeah.
I just looked at this. I was like, this is super interesting. That from a business perspective, there's more runners than there are CrossFitters.
Yeah.
Runners don't identify with CrossFit. Can I create a hybrid, you know, that hybrid athlete concept is
Yeah.
that you have
Yeah. Yeah.
strength and endurance. Like, can I create a fitness event that would be
The
encouraging
promised
to them?
land of
Yeah,
fitness.
for them. And I just think I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, this is so it's super interesting.
That's cool. I just had a
Yeah.
look at it. Europe and North America only. So
Oh, really? No
maybe,
Australia yet?
maybe I'll
Yeah.
bring it to Australia.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should.
Maybe I should.
But all right. So what is up, guys? It is Stu. It is another episode of the What the Fuck Gym Talk podcast, and I've got another segment of branding with Boris. I apologize for our prelude. We were just shooting the shit here. Boris, what's up, buddy?
Man, 2023, ready to rock.
Yeah,
2022 was a great year in branding. But yeah, man, here we go. We haven't done this in a while.
I know. I know. It's been a minute.
I've missed talking to you. That's why I was just catching up with Stu on his endeavors to run a 3-hour marathon, which is no small undertaking, having run a few myself and never near 3 hours.
Yeah, but no, not a few. Just what was the last race you did?
Okay, the last one I did was an ultra marathon. It's called the Ultra Trail Australia. It's 100 kilometers, so 60 miles. And I'm not fast, but I can grind, and it was a grind. It took me 17 hours and 39 minutes to finish that thing.
That blows my mind. Like when I think of like running this marathon, I'm able to wrap my head around 3 hours. Like I'm okay,
Yeah,
like I can do that. That's a Joe Rogan podcast. I can wrap my head
yeah.
around it. 17 hours, like literally for the amount of time you're running, you could fly to America almost.
Yeah, well, no, very much so.
Yeah.
13 hours to LA from
They're
Sydney.
okay.
Yeah.
So
And then a little bit extra to get to Charlotte. But
yeah.
yeah, you could do a lot of shit in that time, and you're just out there kind of running. But
So so when you're out there running, so like Jess's cousin
yeah,
is a big ultra runner, and
yeah,
I think he microdoses mushrooms, or he's either high when he runs and does those
that's
long
cool.
100-mile things. Like, and I started doing just a little bit of research on it. And it's like that's something that's actually somewhat like small percentage like popular in the
Yeah,
running community because
it,
they're
it,
like, I
it
mentally need to go somewhere else.
yes. Also, I think it's not even mentally going it somewhere else. It's like you're already in this experience that's extremely transcendent, because ultimately it gets very quiet out there. You're just out in the bush on the trail and stuff. You're by yourself, and
Yeah.
and everything kind of falls away. Like your daily problems aren't there anymore. So it already has elements of that. I think people who either like smoke some weed beforehand, or do edibles,
Yeah.
or mushrooms or something, they're looking for even more of that spiritual, transcendental experience. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily to get away from the feeling of, oh, I'm running this thing and it's incredibly hard. It's more, let me find some meaning and purpose in this, that can give me some insight, or some kind of evolution,
Yeah.
right? And that's, I think that's the crux of why people do this stuff, like see what's on the other side of it.
So, and yeah, yours was a trail race, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and Jess, I went and saw hers, and that's the first like trail race event I've ever really
Yeah.
watched.
And let's qualify something, right? Like, I'm very much middle of the pack, back of the pack, slow dude. Jess is a thunderbolt, right? She came first in that race that she did,
Yeah.
the 50K. Like,
Yeah.
she's
She,
legit.
yeah, no, I mean it's in the girl's blood. She's an absolute aerobic stud.
Yeah.
But like, so the thing I noticed when I was out there, because I was watching a bunch of the guys running in the like a bunch of the men's heats, the men, many of them were very athletic looking, like from a muscular build, and I'm like, maybe they did a sport prior, but I also started like when I watched them when you run a trail, and I've never ran a trail, like
Yeah.
people like, I like the scenic route. I'm like, I like passing, I like having to run away from crackheads in the city. Like, I like running through the city and dodging buses. Like, I don't stop at intersections. I go and play Frogger with it. It keeps it interesting for me. But like people who like that scenic shit, I mean, you're stepping, you got your laterally step, juke a root, jump over this thing. Like, but you're going slower.
Yes.
And you have so many inclines, like way more aggressive than on a road. No wonder these guys their legs are just fucking tree trunks. It's like a cyclist.
Yeah, well, pretty much. But let me tell you, that's a relatively new phenomena in trail running, right?
Really?
The like Nick Bear, Jack,
Yeah.
like ripped guy who's also spending 4 or 5 days in the gym lifting weights. That's a new phenomena in trail running. And the reason I say that is because I did my first trail race. It was the same race as I did, but it was the 50-kilometer version, so half. And when I stood on that start line, then I was the biggest guy there. I was doing CrossFit at the time, like I was a little bit smaller than I am now, but I was like, semi-jacked, with like a nice layer of insulation on top of it. So I wasn't like ripped or anything like that, but I was the most muscular guy there by far. This time around, especially in the 50K version, dudes are like that. They're ripped, they're jacked. They're like, you can tell this isn't all of it. And I think part of it is trail running's exploded. Popularity of trail running's exploded. And I think it's, you lock people up. Most places around the world, people were locked up in their house for like 2 years. And they realized, I need some trees around me. I need some nature. Like, I need to get the fuck out of this house as far away as possible, and the city will not cut it. Like,
is it?
I don't want to hear a cut.
I went to the other way. I looked at it like, okay, these guys squat, they deadlift. These guys are strong dudes. And trail running, you're running at obviously a slower pace than you can on the road, just because of the natural obstacles and the change in the switchbacks and all the things you have to do. So you're able to go. Yeah, it's again, it's probably a much lower pace. Yes. I don't know where the heart rate is I wonder what the difference would be in someone running a trail race for the same distance as the road. But I imagine, like, if I'm a stronger athlete,
lower heart rate.
Okay, yeah, I'm like, I can probably maintain a zone 2, high zone 2, low Z3 type thing and just endure this. And if I have enough strength endurance, get my big ass tree trunk legs, like, I got to imagine, like, have you ever done the assault bike legs only, or the echo bike legs only, not had the arms involved and just did that?
Yes.
That I got to imagine that's kind of what it feels like at some point to a degree.
Especially if you're one of these guys who's running the uphills, because the general rule with trail running is, unless you're up there, unless you're a Jess, okay, and you're going to win the race,
hike the uphills.
You're hiking the uphills, you're running the flats and the downhills. And even some people don't run the downhills because it's so tough on the quads.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Like, these dudes are looking for another outlet. We can't discount the David Goggins effect, right? because he's the ultimate stud and he's brought trail running into the hemisphere of a lot of people. So yeah, it's a combination of factors, but I think one of them is we realized during the pandemic, like, hey man, you know, time in nature is important and it matters, and people spent more time outside, and they were like, man, like I should be out here more, like, and I can still push myself and get a good workout in, but I'm outdoors and I'm getting sunshine and it's
Yeah.
healthy, and yeah, and zone 2 is a nice place to be, man. Like
Yeah.
it's hard running on the road at like a zone 4, pushing
Yeah.
yourself really hard all the
Yeah.
time. Like it's all suffering, right? But it's different
Sure.
degrees and intensities, right?
Yeah. No, no, 100%. And but
I
no,
think we got to
it's
we got to get you out on the trails after this
yeah,
marathon.
we'll see. Like I said, I'm not a runner. That's a noun. I'm just
Yeah,
running for the net for the year, and then we'll
yeah,
see what happens after that. But
yeah.
all right. So Boris and I recently, I was sending him some pictures, but we got to enjoy a client that we both have been working with. We still are. To just had
Mm-hmm.
her grand opening for her studio in outside of Charlotte, it's a suburb called Pineville, right outside of Charlotte. And it was cool because this was the first time you and me, WTF, and Metcon Creative have teamed up on many clients before. This is the first
Yeah.
time it was those two, and then the Gym Real Estate Company. So I
Gym
was
real
able to
estate
work with,
company, just a
yeah,
new entrant.
yeah. So I was able to work with her, get her the lease, get the negotiations, the upfit, the whole process, permit, all that fun stuff. And then also, now I work with her on the business side and you did the branding side. And I thought there'd be a cool kind of case study, like kind of for us to talk about. It's a unique studio. It's a women's only studio.
Yes.
And my thing that I like the most about it, she's a part-time owner. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll let you go ahead. Go ahead and introduce the client and kind of give, from your perspective, what this project was like for you from a branding perspective.
So Joelle reached out to me, and at first it was going to be the super tight timeline because she was going to open like imminently, but then that got stretched out because of permits and things like that, and essentially she did everything by the book, which slows things down,
Yeah.
on that side of it, which you know way better than I do. But the time pressure kind of got taken off it a little bit, which allowed us to go deeper into some things. And usually if someone comes and they have like a super, super quick turnaround, I almost have to say like, hey, look, I'll make the decisions and you just have to go with them because that's what the timeline dictates. But the ideal is that we have a bit more time and we can do a few revisions, we can do a few rounds. So it turned out to be a very immersive kind of journey for both myself and Joelle of figuring out what this brand was going to be. She had me at Moxie, like the name of the studio. I was like, that is perfect name. And she's like, it's women's only. It's designed purely for women's bodies, for women's experience of life. And I was like, unreal. And so like, when we started diving into strategy, because everything begins with strategy. Like imagine if someone said, hey, we're a women's only gym. I'm like, yeah, cool, got you. Like simple, elegant logo, pink background, here's your brand, give me my $500 and that's it. And then you just have a pink logo, right?
Yeah.
Instead, you dive into strategy and then you get to tell this story in a much more meaningful way. So that's where we began. And I might share my screen here if that's cool.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and give you permission.
Show a few things, and I'll try to talk through this for the people who are only listening.
All right. You should be good.
Okay. Yep. Cool. So this is kind of like my strategy document that we put together, and I'll just take you through a few key points. And the first one is the mission, which is to guide women to live their essence through movement. So it's essentially a movement through movement. That was the idea. The brand vision is that it's a brand in a space that's unapologetically for women, right? And that was like Joelle was very firm on that. She's like, we want a place that's just for women. This is a space for us. It nurtures, how women are, what women want to experience, and it's to serve her essence, serve her body. That was part of the core values. Serve her mind, and just kind of understanding that being a woman is a very unique experience. And I want to address like how come a dude's doing the brand. It's like just because I'm not a woman doesn't mean that I can't help interpret what Joelle's saying and bring it out in a storytelling way. So I suppose in like if we're going to romanticize the whole journey, it's like women creating the brand for women, but it didn't work out that way. I'm not a woman, so but at the same time I can understand where she's coming from, and asking a lot of questions allowed me to build this brand in a way that honors all of that stuff that she was talking about. And it was very aspirational, because this is the process for Joelle where, like you said, you know, she has her full-time job. She might not be that fulfilled by it. So she's learning all these things through this process of creating this business for herself. And she wants to do it to empower other women to also realize her aspirations, realize that she
I
can
love
do
how you
things
break
that she
like
wants to do.
serve the populations that need some moxie. Like just even the way
Yeah.
you break down, like when they spit, and because I've been the guy just spewing shit out of my brain and my face to you. And
Yeah.
then the way you
Yeah.
always come back and you put it into words, and it's always like, hey, why couldn't I have thought that myself? This seems like I should have been able to
Yeah.
say that. But yeah, no, even just as I'm reading this and you're kind of going through these aspirational values of
Yeah.
hers, and
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
I know she didn't say it just like this. I know this is like your interpretation.
Yeah.
And that's just like, that's one of the gifts you have, is the ability to take 60% nonsense, 40% like nuggets, and then turn it
Yeah.
into 100% nuggets.
Thank you. It is something of a gift. It's something that I'm definitely good at inherently. But like I said to a client earlier, because he was like, man, like you said this to me like so clear. So I'm like, you do this maybe once or twice a year if you're lucky for your business. I'm doing this every day.
Yeah.
All day. Right. So it's reps as well, you know. And it's the process. It's having someone across from you, like when you and I did, you know, for urban movement, when I've done it with any client, sometimes it just takes someone on the other end to ask the questions and hear it correctly and then be able to formulate it. So that's, I think that is one of my strengths, is I can take all that kind of stuff that's living in your head that seems disconnected and disjointed and put it all together and put it in a way that people can understand. We dove into her ideal client, which was Maeve. You know, she's a social butterfly. She makes mom life look cool. You know, so we're framing a picture in our head of, you know, women who are definitely identifying as being a mom, but they still want to retain something for themselves, because I think as parents we can all agree it's the inclination and almost the demand from life is that this is all encompassing and you put everything into the family now. And I can imagine that's strong for me as a dad. It's 100% stronger as a mom. And it's about retaining something for yourself, retaining some of your moxie for yourself. And, you know, we map out like, what does this look like a year on? Maeve has fully embraced herself in this season of her life. You know, she's got a bigger perspective on how things function.
So
And
so for everyone listening, so not only did
yeah,
Boris do you know, the ideal client avatar, which by the way, does anyone ever just hit you up just for that kind of work? I just want you to help me figure out my avatar. I think I'm good enough on the messaging. I'll do it after that. But do you have people who just hit you up for that?
they do, and they try to, but I don't really take that work on, for the reason that I need to understand a lot more.
Sure.
And selfishly, I love to be the one to then take it and create it and craft
Yeah.
it and stuff like that. I have done it before, and I actually, it's interesting you bring that up, because obviously there's a my price is prohibitive for some people, right?
Sure.
For some people it's like, yeah, that's cool. For some people it's prohibitive. I'm actually putting something together, like a self-guided version of this workshop that I run. I'm putting together a self-guided version for people who want to go through this process
Cool.
and understand the ideal client and understand everything, but don't have the money or aren't ready to go all in on this huge branding project. They just need a strategic understanding of their ideal client and of their business.
Yeah, and if you're
Themselves.
just listening to this, make sure you go back. If it's on Spotify, the video will be there. It'll be on YouTube as well. But like, go and just look at. I mean, Boris is being very, very generous, going ahead and sharing some of this information as well in here, and just like how well he puts this thing together. But yeah, no, dude. I mean, this is great. And then I love this. It's like, okay, this is your avatar, and then this is your avatar after a year, and it's so keep going because this is just awesome.
So, you know, like we address things like May feels mentally and physically better. Coming to Moxie has deepened her relationships with her friends who go together. And I encourage the owners that I work with, like, look at this document regularly. Set yourself a time in your calendar. Look at this regularly, because it reminds you of where you're trying to take these people, where you're trying to get from these people. And when they've been with you for a year, are these the kinds of things that they're saying? You know, have you achieved what you set out? Because strategy is completely forward facing, right? But we don't know if we're hitting that mark unless we go back to the strategy and look at the strategy again. So this is kind of an exploration of what will bring you fulfillment in this business, and what do you want to, how do you want to serve people, and what do you want to create in their life. And if you look back and you're creating that, that's an incredible moment for an owner to be like, oh my God, we have like 16 Maves in this gym who their life's transformed. You know, she's claiming her time. She's saying no to obligations that aren't necessary. She sets better boundaries. You know, all these struggles that she had, in some small part, being at Moxie has helped her with that. That's incredibly fulfilling for an owner, especially when, you know, we have the day-to-day of business and you can get caught up in that race, to reflect and be like, hey, we're actually making a real impact on people the way we hoped we would. So
real quick, I just realized something as we're going through this. Did you talk to Joel? No.
Yes.
Did you talk to Joel already ahead of time?
Today?
About us doing this?
No, I didn't.
All right, so I'm calling her right now. We just need permission. We just need permission. We didn't get that yet. Hey, I've got you. You're like live on the podcast right now. I'm doing a podcast with Boris.
Hey, Joel.
Hey. Yeah, Boris is on. You might not be able to hear him because I've got my headset on, but I'm doing this segment I do with him called Branding with Boris, and we're just using Moxie as a case study and talking about the brand and everything like that. Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
Okay. He's like, we're talking about like your brand strategy and like how, you know, your conversations came together to create the brand and all that kind of stuff. I'll send you the episode afterwards. If there's anything you don't want in it, I'll edit it out. But we were doing this. I was like, I probably should have called Joelle ahead of time and told her we were going to talk about her on the podcast.
No, that's totally fine. Just make sure that Boris tells you about how he popped off on Mind Body on email.
Boris Sheldon, the Mind Body people.
I'll tell the story.
Oh, he reply all. Oh, you were talking shit. I cannot wait to hear this. Very good. All right, homie. I'll let you get back to it. Thank you. Bye. That's fucking funny. You replied all and just talk shit.
So this is what happened, right? And I'll get into the website for Moxie in a minute. But basically, what happened was we're building this website, right? I'm doing Joel's website. She's got Mind Body. That's her CRM. It's all good. I go to embed these forms, right? And there's a form on there that's like an opt-in form to her newsletter, and it's supposed to have, you know, like click here to receive marketing, all that sort of stuff, like, you know, legality, opt-in. And it's checked by default, but the check marks aren't showing. This is back and forth with them 3-4 weeks, like, hey guys, this isn't working. Can you shoot us a video to show what your experience? Yeah, cool. I'll shoot the video. I'll send it to them. Oh, we're not seeing it. You know, like just non-solutions for like 4 weeks, right? So I'm getting frustrated. Joelle's obviously frustrated. She's launching all this stuff, and like, I hate when I care about every pixel and they don't even care about the core of their product, right? So stressful situation. They email us saying, hey, I'm like a customer service specialist or engineer, whatever. And they're like, you know, we're seeing that it's working. So can you double check with your web developer to make sure it's working? And Joelle emails me and she's like, hey, Boris, does this solution make sense? And I hit reply all, just out of habit, not even knowing the Mind Body people are on this email. And I'm like, I think word for word is what I said was, you mean the non-solution that they just provided? It's not a solution at all. I said, I can't access the site until Monday when I'm back at work. But if I go in and it's not working like they said, I'm going to rip them a new one on Monday. And is that an expression in America, rip them a new one? Or is that an Aussie thing?
No, yeah, that's they understand that.
Yeah. So I'm like, cheers, Boris. And she's like, she sends me an email back. She's like, just letting you know you hit reply all on that, and just like so many like smiley emojis. And I looked at it, and at first I had that like pang of like, oh fuck. But then at the same time, like I replied, I'm like, you know what, Joel, I'm not even mad, because like you got to set these expectations. It's been 4 weeks. Like, this is incredibly frustrating. So I don't regret anything that I said. And she was like, I read that, and she was like, oh, this guy just does not give a fuck, and I love
No.
it.
Yeah.
So it was a cool
Accidentally
bonding moment
controversial.
between. Yeah, exactly. It was a cool bonding moment between me and my client, though, and it's like we're on the same page. And for anyone listening, hopefully it's resolved by the time this episode is. But it was a non-solution when I did come in and check it. And these are the moving parts of any of these projects, right? And there's frustrations along the way. Having a brand strategy helps because you know what you're actually aiming at. But yeah, sometimes people will try to mess with that. So yeah, that's what Joel was saying.
And I think any client wants to work with somebody, especially in the again, like everyone's like, this is Joelle did what most gym owners wish they had the foresight of doing. She took she's one of my, in 2022, I think I did 7, 8, I don't know, under 10, more than 5 concept studios that we took from start to finish within 2022. And when someone, especially in concept, it's such it's just an idea. It was a back of the napkin idea. And now I paid a designer and a business consultant, and I'm signing permits. Oh, and I signed a lease and all this. And like, you have put all your shit out there. And then when, some lazy customer service agent or whatever it is kind of like, fucking, she's got a grand opening coming up. And it's like that, you want the people in your corner to fucking stand up for you and be just 100%. As pissed as you are.
100%. And this is why, like, I'm often going to bat for my clients. To anyone who is, it's just the code, or, it's this. And I'm like, no, they're fucking lying. And they're just not doing what they're supposed to do. So I'll, sometimes hosting companies or whatever, but it's not uncommon for me to get on customer service or like go on the online chat and stuff and have these conversations on behalf of my clients, because their expertise is getting people fit, healthy, and they have like business acumen and stuff, but they don't know the ins and outs of hosting for a website, why the domain isn't linking to this other thing. And this is stuff that I need to do my job. So I'll take that off their plate and be like, look, let me deal with it. Let me handle it. Give me kind of permission to talk to these people, because I hate people being passed around, we'll talk to this guy, we'll escalate it to that guy. And it's like, no one's actually.
And it's a game of telephone. You got to repeat the same problem to 4 different people.
100%. And I just see it as part of the service, because the way I look at it is like, anything that helps you do your job is your job.
Yeah.
So I kind of see it that way. But yeah, that was a really funny situation. And it's cool. Like, you'll relate to this. Like, when you work for yourself, you hear reply all on something, it's not that bad, but you do that within a company and now your boss is in that, and it's a bigger problem.
Yeah. This is the first year. So I'm doing work with with push press. And so it's, it's
right.
I've got, I've had 1099 brand gigs before and stuff like that, and Mariana Tech and other brand. And just like, it's one of those ones where I always have to be like, okay, don't type like you talk. These people they're not that kind of a client, and they're not
to corporatize too.
It's not Isaac you're talking to or your admin. Like, do not type like you talk. That's why I have the setting on Gmail that I can unsend an email within a 30-second window, because
same. I have that.
Yeah. Cause
I have that, and it's because
guy.
I forget to attach shit, or like I forget to, it's just in case I forget to include something. But yeah, definitely chose violence on something.
Mine's just because I chose violence, and I'm like, probably cunt was not appropriate in that email. I should probably dial that one back. All right. All right. So
yeah, let me take you through this.
Yeah,
I'll give you some visuals in a minute too. Yeah. So like, I'm just kind of setting the scene. So this is the strategy, and we have, how we're going to communicate this stuff. And really it's the vibe. That's what kind of plants the seed for how things are going to look, sound, feel. And so I try to define that. And with Moxie, it's a movement, not a workout. It's an uplifting space with good energy and inspiring women who celebrate each other's Moxie. So there's a lot in that, right? It's, people talk about, we want everyone to feel welcome here. Okay. All of these things don't sound engaging. Celebrate each other's Moxie. That's how you include everyone, but you make it sound cool, right?
But this is your vibe. Like, for what he just read to you is that is like essentially how they express. Someone's like, oh, what's the vibe of your gym? Like, that's what she would say. That's what her staff will be trained to say. And think of it, it's 2 sentences, and not one element of it talks about what the workout actually is, which is what most gym owners go to. Well, okay, so we do 45-minute intervals. Like, no. That's not what's going to help your marketing and branding. Nobody cares at that deep of a level. Like, you don't look at a commercial for a beer or a food or whatever, and they get into the ingredients, like deep into the ingredients. It's right. Again, it's how does it make you feel? What's its vibe?
Yeah, exactly. And if you think about, this is an interesting exercise to do, because I've been, for some reason, a lot of perfume commercials have been coming up on my YouTube pre-roll. Maybe I stink, but they have to communicate a smell through visuals, right? Which is extremely difficult to do. But if you're a gym owner, think about how would you communicate this if it was a perfume, like, just because it makes you boil it down to the emotion, to the essence, to the visual of like, hey, maybe if I spray this shit on myself, I'm going to be like Johnny Depp, right? Like, how does it make someone visualize themselves? Because branding is all about emotion. It's about information as well, but essentially it's about creating emotion in people, you know? So I want to be part of a movement. Like, I want a cool space. I want other women who are similar to me, but they're unique, and, you know, it makes me feel good. That's the vibe that we're trying to create. And then, you know, we kind of think about what does that look like visually. You know, up here we have this like this kid with her tongue out, so it's got a bit of attitude to it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's also very clean and earthy. And
this is kind of like the vision mood board kind of
thing. I call it a stylescape, and it's kind of, it informs where we're going with this, what we're doing, you know, and how we're going to bring this stuff that we've just uncovered in the strategy session. How do we bring this across to people?
I want to piggyback on what you were saying when we were talking about Joelle's vibe and how, you know, the perfume company has to do it. Again, sure. It's about breaking it down in ways that I truly believe are layman speak, and don't talk about the product. So, for example, this might be not surprise to a lot of people, on the weekends, I like to overindulge in whiskey, and then I generally like to eat my weight and then other people's weight in pizza or whatever it may be. Like, that's what I like to do. So, the other day we've been drinking and we were talking about pizza, and I was like, you know what? I just like, because, you know, when you've been drinking, pizza shows up and you're like eating like you've never eaten before in your life, right? Like, you're starving when you're not. Like, you're just like drunk and you're just eating. And I always burn my mouth. Every time I pop pee, I always burn that shit. So we were joking around, like, what's the best? Like, what do you want in a pizza? And I was like, I want a pizza that when I eat it shit-faced doesn't burn my mouth or make me shit my pants the next day. Like, I want a pizza that's just going to not burn my mouth and not cause digestive issues the following day. and like, everyone's like, I concur. That's exactly what I want too. Now, I don't know if a pizza company is actually going to pick that up and go running with that slogan, right? We don't burn your mouth or make you shit your pants the next day. But if they did, you would have the attention of me and every other whiskey drinking degenerate probably.
Yeah, every stone guy on a Saturday night.
Exactly.
Like, everyone who like needs the pizza right now. Like, I don't have time to put it on my plate and wait 5 minutes. I don't have 5 minutes. I'm drunk and hungry. I'm
trying to have third-degree burns on my tongue, right? Like in the roof of my mouth. But yeah, that's guys. So think about that. Like, when you're thinking about describing your brand, take out the thing, like, just talk about, like, how do you want the workout, or like, how do you think people would want the workout to be? And guess what? If I own a pizza company, I could not have come up with that slogan. I thought of it because I'm a pizza customer and I eat pizza.
You can't see the label from inside the pizza sauce bottle.
That's right.
That's right. Like, it's you need someone to either take you through a process or to go through a process that's been created that allows you to remove yourself a little bit. And, you know, like, it's not uncommon for clients to get on the call with a glass of alcohol. Like, I had one the other day, Austin Teal 1031 Fitness, in Iowa, and he's like a whiskey drinker and stuff, and he had like 3 or 4 whiskeys while we did this 3-hour workshop, and he's like, it just helps me loosen up, and it helps me like not think about all the shit that happened today at the gym. It makes me think about the big picture of where I want my business to go. I'm like, cool, do what you got to do. Like,
bro, that's my kind of guy. That's my guy. That's awesome.
Probably someone's been high on one of my calls.
I bet. Oh, for your calls? Yeah. Oh, 100%. If it wasn't, it's because we have to get up at 3:30 in the morning to talk to you with the Australian time zone.
That's a Charlotte. That's a Charlotte problem. You know,
It is a
like
strong problem. Yeah.
a lot of people like I'm like 8 a.m. and they're 4 p.m. You know,
That's the East Coast.
this is easier. It's, you know, but it speaks to your character of like just having to have it no matter what. If I have to talk to this guy at 3, if I have to burn my mouth,
Yep.
if I have to shit my pants, I'm getting
Let's do
what
it.
I want.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. Say it plainly, man. Like people don't know anything about your business and they're not that curious to learn.
Yep.
You know, we have this fantasy of they're going to read this headline, then they're going to, oh, what does he mean by that? Like what do you mean 39-minute workout? How does that work? Ooh, like, you know, people don't have that. Either it captures them or it doesn't. And if you want to capture someone's attention, it's got to be through emotion.
At the very end of this, I want to know what you think of whether Equinox effectively captured attention with We Don't Speak January. You saw that, right? Their campaign.
I'll tell you right now, absolute genius campaign.
Oh yeah, 100%. Save it. I want to save it for the end.
Campaign.
I want to say we're going to save that for the end.
We'll save it for the end because I know a lot of people are fired up about that.
Oh, they are. Yeah. Everyone's asked me to do a video, a podcast on it.
I'll give you my 2 cents at the end.
Good.
100%. So yeah, this is basically Moxie, right? You know, this was my inspiration, but I'll take you through the brand and the visuals because that's what's kind of always more fun and interesting. Everyone wants to see the results, right? No one wants to see the work behind the work. This is brand identity, right? So this is the logo that we ended up going with. And we also added and explained that it's Moxie Fitness Studio, right? The ultimate goal, 5 years to 10 years, is that people know what this is without having to have fitness studio attached to it, right?
That's a great font.
We need to,
your typography skills are so
them.
high level, man. You identify fonts that just fucking spew the brand. This like, because again, she presented me when you guys did your thing, she showed it to me on one of our calls, and I was like, I fucking knew he was gonna nail the font. I mean, like, I know he's gonna probably nail everything else, but the one thing I know Boris is always gonna crush is the font.
The font. You know what? And this is the real MVPs are the font makers. Like the people who, there's a million fonts out there, they're like, nah, the one I'm going to create is going to have something, right? And it's the classic thing, like coaches have this, right? It takes me 15 minutes to program a workout, but it took me 10 years knowing what to put into it, right? It might take me 30 minutes to find the font, but it's been 12 years of experience to know which font to find. So it's that. But this wasn't the first iteration. I'm going to show you, like, because we went through, man, I think this was actually in the second round, but we did 5 rounds of logos. And this was actually the first iteration that I did. Very clean, too pulled back, not enough personality.
It looks like a salon almost, like very like refined, like very proper. Yeah,
exactly. And then I went too feminine.
That even looks more. That looks like fashion.
Even more, yeah. So even more, like we went to the fashion end of it. You know, it's images like this, and it was too fancy.
Yeah.
And then the second round, that's when this came about. Okay, but still, we were exploring. You know, This was maybe too far in the like, too contemporary, too current, right? Because a lot of brands are looking like this right now. Then number 3, something more organic, something more handwritten, you know, again, because she started exploring scripts and, you know, a lot of it is Joel as well, kind of saying, hey, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, cool, let's explore it, because I want to explore everything to make sure that when we get to the end, we're both like so happy about where we ended up, that there's no unexplored territory, right? And then we have a lowercase version of that. And then we went back to, you know, I think this was the one, you know. So I said, you know, we had a bit more time to do the process. We didn't have to rush it, and it served the brand. But yeah, that's how the logo came to be. And yeah, it is. When looking for fonts, and this is something that people can take as advice, is fonts essentially communicate tone, right? In the absence of having someone in front of you, reading their body language, understanding how they're speaking, loud, quiet, soft-spoken, or you know, brash. Do they use the word cunt or not? Are they stubrow or not? You know, like fonts have the power to communicate that stuff. So with Moxie, there's like, I love the X. It has kind of like this duality, right? Between, and for me, it's all metaphor. Like it's, you know, who she is and who she's becoming. And they're always in like an interplay. There's almost emotion to it. So that's the way that I look at it. Colors, You know, this is another thing we went back and forth on a fair bit till we landed on this palette. And then the fonts. And I put a post up the other day about like, do you think it's worth paying for fonts? And most people said yes. Right.
That's surprising. I feel like okay. I think in your Instagram story they're gonna punch yes, but if you told them you got to go buy a font, I remember when you were doing the font with the work for Gym Real Estate Company, and Boris did the branding work on that too. For I had a buddy over or whatever. I'm like, all right, I'm almost done with work, blah blah blah, and he's like, well, I'm like, check this font out and whatever, and I'm like, I got to go buy it real quick. He's like, you got to go buy a font, and I was like, yeah. He's like, why? I'm like, because I don't want one that anyone else can just get.
Yeah.
Like, now, granted, anyone else can go buy one.
Yeah.
But like I want to be a little bit barrier of entry to it. But I'm surprised because I looked at the result of that because I saw when you threw that story up. I was surprised as many people said yes. And this is one of those things. If you've already signed on to work with Boris or any brand design guy or girl, and then like they're like, okay, but it's gonna be a $30 font. And you're going to make a big deal, but shut the fuck up. Like, just like, again, realize you went and hired an expert to make your shit so fucking unique. Don't then go to fucking Walmart to pick up the linen, you know, that kind of stuff.
I get it. You know, and most of the time I don't pass the cost on to the client. And the reason for that is I charge a good amount, you know, like I'm happy making what I make and I don't.
Well, then you also then own.
Example,
you also have a collection of good fonts now too over time, right?
Absolutely. There's licensing things and legalities and stuff like that we don't have to get into. But basically, I buy the font because it's going to make my work better, which is going to get me the next job.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to. I can't, like, having seen this font and knowing it's $165, and then going, no, I'm not going to spend $165 on this font. I'll choose a similar font that's not as good. I'll die inside. I won't sleep. I can't have that.
That's why you're the best, man. But that's why you're the fucking guy.
It's just I can't have that. So, and I have a question for you, Gym Real Estate Company, right? We bought that font. I think it was like $60 or something like that. Maybe we bought a couple of weights. Having used it in your content, like, do you notice that it's better than a free font?
Bro, I have to keep checking myself because whenever I'm doing like and I get Boris is rebranding WTF too, which is super fun. But like, anyway, every time I would go to do a post for like WTF or whatever, even Respect the Tempo, I go because I like it so much. I'm like, God, I can't use that. I'm like, but that's my favorite fucking font. Because I uploaded the Canva and all that. But no, I do. I absolutely loved it. And I wouldn't have like given the green light and bought a font that I didn't like, but I was like, he's not lying. It looks good. And I even went. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to buy this no matter what. Whatever Boris says, I'm just going to go do. But I'm curious, like, is there something comparable for free on fucking Google Font? Dude, I probably spent a solid hour just on a Sunday dicking around one day. I couldn't find anything that was exactly that had it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get it, man. And I don't even understand typography to 1% of what you understand.
Yeah. If I make an analogy to coaching, you can get a program online, right? That's good enough. Like, recently I bought one of Marcus Philly's programs, Pump 40. It was like, I don't know, $40, $50, something like that. Because I was like, I just can't be bothered programming for myself for the next 8 weeks. So I'm going to buy this program. Seems to deliver whatever, you know. That's different to hiring Marcus to coach me individually. Nuance comes into play, understanding what we're trying to do, the purpose behind it, everything like that. Font makers are the same way. They're craftsmen in the sense of this font was made with a particular outcome in mind, rather than just make a clean font and put on Google Fonts for free. This is like, no, I want this for Gym Real Estate Company, for example. It's for a startup that is sophisticated, but doesn't lose its personality, still has an approachable nature, but isn't cookie cutter. So that was the Gym Real Estate font, right?
How does that work?
It's high level.
Has anyone ever came to you and been like, will you make me a custom A through Z, different weights, fonts? And then like, how do you check the database of fonts that are out there that you didn't accidentally recreate something that already existed?
You know what? People do end up creating very, very, very similar within a millimeter stuff of each other. No one's come to me for that because I can't do that. I don't know how. Like, I'm definitely like, these people it's an art form, right? What I do is design. They make art. and but it's art and geometry and precision, and they just know, man. They're trained, and that's why they charge. Like some fonts are $2,000.
Crazy expensive. Yeah.
And the reason that a lot of big companies get custom fonts made that look a lot like other stuff is because they don't want to pay the licensing fees, right? If you get like IBM went through this, right? And they actually, their font is open source. It's IBM Plex, and you can get it on Google Fonts. But they were using, I believe it was Universe, a font called Universe, and they were spending in excess of $6 million a month on licensing fees, just so everyone in their company could use that font, because that's the font, right? And instead they spent probably several $1 million creating a font of their own that they have complete rights to, and then that business expense goes away. So there's a financial, like smart financial factor to it as well. But yeah, no one's come to me to create an alphabet, and they never will, because that's not how I put myself out there, and I'm incapable of it. But font makers are heroes. And back to Moxie, like Receif Display is this absolutely beautiful font. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, and I even said, I'm supposed to be professional and just present the work without inserting my opinion, but come on, look at how pretty.
Yeah.
And I said that to Joel in the presentation, like, look at the curves, look at like, and when I go back to the vibe and the strategy, I'm like, this is that, for me, it evokes that feeling, right? So that's fonts, man. And the whole kind of overarching goal with this was to be feminine, but not girly, right? Because we're not dealing with a 17-year-old girl, we're dealing with a 35-year-old
Yeah,
woman.
we're not doing hot pink and all that shit.
No, because that's kind of the low-hanging fruit almost, in a way. Like, we're a women's brand, we're a women's gym, it's pink, like, and there's no fun in that. Image shapes, how do we put images, like, so I created these shapes that, because we have kind of bohemian influences and stuff like that, and looking at that source material and reference material, how do we bring that but modernize it, make it contemporary? Like, this is a very modern facility. Some illustrations, like line work and stuff like that. And then culture kit, which is like a series of badges that represent the brand, movement through movement. And it's not related to fitness, it's related to womanhood, it's related to nature and finding your essence and stuff like that, because a workout's a workout at the end of the day, right? There's varying degrees of effectiveness and engagement, but to someone looking at your gym and the 5 others in the area, as long as they're both similarly priced and close to each other, you're going to win on brand if you're the one who can make people feel something. So designed for women, like this kind of starscape, we had an idea of like that being representative of Moxie and saying, find yours, move that energy, all this sort of stuff that here's to strong women, and she has that on the wall now. You sent me that photo.
I got a bunch of images when I was there she had a soft opening on a Friday, great turnout, and no workout, just again, and a lot of people, like a lot of my concept gyms, like, you don't have to have a workout. Like, they're like, really? Like, I'm like, no, like, watch how many more people you get when they can show up dressed up with whatever they're going to do Friday night. They can come here and they can come there ahead of time, and it's way better. Everyone thinks like,
that's such a good idea.
Yeah, I got to give them a workout. I got to give them a workout. No, you don't. Give them cocktails, and then let your trainers walk around and talk to people, and just, walk the facility. You get to talk about the workouts, like all that shit.
Brilliant. I think that's such a smart strategy for it. And then, how do we do this on social media? How do we, put these badges on there and then allow her to talk about some of the philosophy behind Moxie? How do we do promotions? We had the concept of first ladies, like the founding members, like everything has to have a name, everything can be branded, everything has to have that feeling injected into it.
I love the first ladies, like that's what they called the founding membership. They're for their pre-sale, and I thought that was so great.
And a lot of it is about celebrating, the Moxie and every woman, and kind of having a way to do that, a way to celebrate it, whether it's on their birthday or when they've joined, or spotlighting a trainer. When I'm creating brands, I'm kind of thinking about where can we take this and what can we show through it? What can we say about it? And this was the first ladies concept, right? Emails, like we design all this stuff, and you can see that if you put this together, everything has a consistent feel. And, I always bang on about clarity and consistency and authenticity. It matters. And it's like, the rub is everyone's starting to have a consistent brand because Canva can spit it out for you, right? So now what? Now you have to differentiate. Now you have to be better than the generic version that anyone has, right? And that's where something like this comes into play, where you have, we're going to create a journal called Strong Her, where we celebrate the women, art, motherhood, and friendship. This is kind of like a concept of an artist that trains at Moxie. Welcome letters and stuff like that. And then merchandise, which is huge because they're going to spend $200 at Lulu.
Oh
Why
yeah,
not spend
we
at
went.
least 80 with you?
I took Jess and her mom there, and my sister and her boyfriend came out. We bought candles. We bought. I got my kid a Moxie.
Just signature scents. That was so cool.
Moxie beanies and hoodies, like crop top hoodies and all that kind.
Yeah,
I got a ton of Moxie apparel now.
Awesome. Yeah, like created all this stuff, and
I love it.
That was it. That was the brand, and then website. Bringing it to life online. That was the other part of it. And I'll go through that real quick. People want it to be so different, right? People talk about this is where, you got to have your call to action and you got to have your button and stuff. And the marketer and you's probably like, Boris, what the fuck are you doing, man? That's prime real estate. But Moxie is such a statement name that I firmly believe when they land here and they see that, they'll do the scroll.
Yeah, no, I think this is, again, when you fill the real estate up with clear, concise messaging, I have no problem. But when I'm generally looking at a gym's website,
I was going to get yelled at on the podcast.
No, but it's like when I look at something and it's not clear, it's not concise, and then there's no fucking button, I'm like, all right, well, now we've lost it on both fronts. But if you can be, again, something like this, and this is such like, this looks like a magazine, like the cover of a magazine.
Yes. Thank you. Because it's supposed to, and we want to like not shy away from this message that it's unapologetically for women. We want to speak to, how does she want to feel? She wants to feel motivated, challenged, and strong. It's only about like 3 scrolls in that we talk about the actual workout. Because you do want to, the website's the place where you explain this shit, right?
Yeah.
The website's the place where you explain what's actually going to happen when you come in, right? Intentionally small, exceptionally guided, so we can speak about the coaching. And then first ladies grab the deal, and the imagery supports this. Joelle had a photo shoot. They're drinking, they're having fun, like Moxies and mimosas, all this sort of thing is going on.
It's cool. Like it's like when people want to cool, like again, if you're listening to this, guys, you got to go watch the video. You got to look at this brand. You look at all this that Boris created. You just look like, fuck, that looks cool.
Yeah, and I always say, like authenticity plus consistency equals to cool, right? And this is Moxie's all about it. And not everything has to have imagery. Not everything has to fill up the whole page. I think people get caught up in saying too much. Yeah, it's better to say a little bit of something.
And going to the authenticity and consistency. So I believe a lot of gyms, they throw a bunch of shit together, website and social media. It's not even authentically them. Like it doesn't, they're like, it's not really how I feel. And then it's not even consistent. The website doesn't look like the social doesn't look like the newsletters don't look like this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you don't have anything. And then they just look at this like, why is this so cool? It's like, well, because from the beginning, like literally the very first page of this PDF he showed us in her brand guide, it felt like what we're looking at right now. Like, again, it's consistent. He's taking you through this journey where now, and again, he's taking you through a journey here in this podcast, but like a prospective client went to Google, searched gyms near me, saw one only for women, which is going to be unique. They're going to click it, website's going to take them there. They're like, oh, okay, this website. Okay. They're going to always backtrack the data and look at the fucking social media. They're going to look at what kind of people work out there and what kind of workouts do they do. Now the social media is going to look like the website. And then you just feel like, they've got it together. Like I feel like this is a consistent kind of thing. Yes, trust.
It creates trust, and that's what consistency does. If you think it's not a big deal that they come to your website and then they get an email, and the email's just got like the generic MailChimp or Whatify or whatever, and then they come in and then you hand them like this photocopied piece of paper with a waiver on, like at every point there's a disconnect, right? It's almost like red flags. I'm dating this person, but you know, you try, he had probably one too many drinks at dinner that I didn't like. Like you know, there's little check marks going against your name, and then something happens one day, and they're like, "This experience isn't for me," right? But when you give them something cohesive from the beginning and everything's there, they're like, "I want to marry this person,"
Sure.
you know. And here's one page that I recommend everyone does. Like, you don't have to have a website with me. Any website that you have, if you can build a page on it, this is the page to build. I do this for all my clients, and I call it like Love Local, and it's your favorite food, coffee, drinks, and you know, like hikes, whatever the case may be. But these are links to other businesses in your town. Say a little bit about like what you love about them, and you know, basically you make yourself someone who enjoys healthy living, who enjoys being part of the culture of the place that you're in. So, you know, you become kind of like a go-to of a curator of how to live a good and healthy life in your area. Like for Joel, it's Pineville, you know, for other people, it's, you know, San Mateo, California, like wherever it is, you be the expert. And then guess what happens when she goes to Pineville Craft Beer and says, "Hey, I've got you on my website. I list you as one of my favorite places. Do you mind if I put some flyers right here?"
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Of course. Thank you for the shout out, you know.
For her B2B strategy. This is literally
guerrilla marketing.
Yeah, these are the top ones that she's going to do her B2B stuff with. And
yeah,
it's
and that's something that you can steal right away and put on your website now.
I'll tell you, for my line of work, what I've got to do in this particular case, I had to take this from concept, from a real estate perspective to opening. And I'm not always fortunate enough to have a studio or a business owner work with you on this. And a lot of the work, even again, when they don't, we still get there. We still get there.
You still get there, yeah. There's still levers you can pull. I'm not the only one.
Our work is way more cut out for us on the pre-sale side than someone who has a very just like an attractive, magnetic looking brand because they've invested in it. And generally, so I can go through line items and look at the equipment line item list, and I'm like, no, boom, there's Boris right there. Right there. Like you don't need this, and this. Boom. That'll take care of you. Will have the best fucking looking brand in this city. I promise you. Get rid of those 6 items. I promise you don't need them.
I gotta start paying you commissions, man.
But you know, for Joel, you know, on the business side, and I don't want to go. I wanted this to be more about the brand, but I want to say one thing about this. Joel approaches me. I actually got to meet her. She's actually in an old episode of the vlog when I was vlogging. She came into Charlotte, North Carolina. I was introduced to her by a mutual friend, Nick. He's the co-founder of Reflex Radio, and she's in New Jersey, and she's a fitness chick. And so he's like, "Hey, you know, my friend's coming in. Would you mind chatting with her?" Sure, absolutely. So I'm like, you know, I got her permission. She let me put the camera on, and I just recorded the conversation. And I don't know, I think 6 minutes of it made it to a vlog. And then fast forward years later, COVID and everything, I think, brings her down to Charlotte from New Jersey, and she wants to open a studio. It is, you know, so very serendipity of the whole thing. But she was she's a full-time career woman. She is in the corporate world. And we got to a point where I told her in the beginning, that's your superpower. Do not change. Do not even think about going full-time in this business. It's the best thing in the world for you not to do.
Yeah.
And she bought into that. But I don't think Joelle was, you know, overly enthusiastic about things going on in her corporate career at the time. And she was at a point where she was ready to jump and like go all in on this. And I really had to push back and be like, listen, you pay me for a reason. I need to tell you, you need to trust me on this. Do not do it. And I've made content on this. So like, if anyone's listening to this and you have a concept of opening a gym, you have a full-time job, keep your full-time job. I promise you, you are light years ahead of your competition who have to instantly from month 1 extract money out of the business to live. And then some people are like, well, I won't have to. I've got some savings. I'll be good for like 6 months, bro. No, you need you need to have a couple years worth of runway with this whole thing. And Joelle now, she's going to have a business that she's not 100% in. So she's not going to have a hard time replacing herself because she had to replace herself from the jump.
From the beginning. Exactly.
Beginning.
And then she won't have the attachment,
the emotional attachment, the whole thing.
She won't have the belief that she's the only one who can run that business.
Dude, she gets to have the best of both worlds.
And, you know, I can imagine that a lot of people I'm going to like what you're saying because there's this romance of, you know, the entrepreneurship dream, the American dream. You go all in on your dreams.
Yeah.
You go all in on your passion. You have to devote everything to make this work. And it's just not realistic for a lot of people.
Yeah,
It puts undue pressure on your spouse. It puts undue
that
pressure on you. And you make, and I'm sure you've had this with owners, you make short-term plays when you should be making long-term plays.
this whole like if I get someone on the phone and we're on our initial call and I feel like this person, man or woman, is just a little bit of old school and like, oh no, fuck it, I'm just gonna put my head down and fucking just push through this. I'm like, yeah, we're not gonna work. I work smarter. I don't work harder.
Yeah.
And that's what I do for you guys is that we're going to work very smart. I'm going to tell you there's hard work and you're going to do hard work, but you're not going to do hard work at the sacrifice of doing smart work. And there's a smart way to do things that will save you money. Yeah. And so, and you know, Joelle's doing that. And now again, then the goal is the business is going to get to a place where she can then make the choice.
Yes.
Hey, whatever. Maybe I just want to jump in full time because I've absolutely had it or whatever. My goal would be for her to, at that point, be able to jump out of the corporate world, but not have to jump full time into Moxie if she doesn't want to. Right. Like, and
you know, what's interesting about Joelle, and like, I want to give her props. She's like an undercover operator. You know what I mean? Like, when you talk to her and you've had this experience and even on the call, like she's just laughing and having a good time and stuff like that, but she can work. And she could work smart. And you could tell that every skill that she honed in the corporate world, every meeting she sat in, she learned and she's applying it. And so much respect for her, because I always say the brand's only as good as the owner. You know what I mean? Like, I can only create what's already inside. And her vision and her passion for that vision was so big, but she had an understanding of how a business works. And I think everything you said to her about, you know, don't quit your full-time job, she understood that she could make it way bigger if she didn't have to extract money from the business, if she didn't have to make short-term decisions. And you know, it gives her a level of clarity that a lot of operators don't have. So yeah, all props to Joelle, because she's very it's funny, I'll tell this story real quick. My mom hurt her back, right, and isn't huge on like going out and seeing a chiropractor and stuff like that. I talked to my friend Jake Alec, Dr. Alec out of Illinois, because I did his branding and stuff, and I'm like, if I could go to anyone in the world, I would go to him. And I reached out to him like, hey, look at these scans. Can you tell me, like, I'll pay for your time or whatever. And he's like, man, I can fix this. It was like a bulging disc. He's like, I can fix this over Zoom. So I go to my mom's house, I get a laptop and stuff. He just guides her through these exercises. Her back pain, which was debilitating, goes away. So shout out Dr. Jake Alec. Alec Pain to Performance. If anyone's in the Illinois area, that's the man. But yeah, fixes her back up, right? And then I have a meeting right after that with Joelle. So I'm like, I'll do it at my mom's house. My mom's outside doing her thing. I have this 30-minute meeting with Joelle, and she comes back and she's like, what the fuck do you actually do for work? She's like, all I hear is and you're just having this good time. And she's like, these are business. I'm like, that's just how it is. And that's how Joelle is, you know, like she's got a really positive approach to all of this. A lot of my clients are like that. My wife always used to say when I work from home, she's like, all I hear is you cracking up laughing, and then you churn out these brands. And I'm like, but it serves the hypothesis that I believe that people who work out a lot are just more fun to work with.
Sure.
And that's just been the reality of working with gym owners. So it's often that. But yeah, Joelle's like this very bubbly, right person, and just a awesome operator in the back end. In no small part due to your guidance as well, for sure.
But I will, you know, not to continue gush on Joelle, but she's one where generally if I lay out a strategy for someone, in many instances, I've got to go ahead and I've got to unzip it and I got to pull it out piece by piece by piece. I have no problem explaining the ins and outs. With Joelle, I can literally just be like, this is the strategy. Here's the high level. And she instantly she's unzipped it. She's pulled out, like we're speaking the same language. It goes light years faster with certain individuals. They can as soon as you say a strategy, they're like, their brain just ticks. All she needed was she just needed me to shine the flashlight in a certain area. And then she looked over there and she saw what I saw.
Yeah. And this is why, like, sometimes people will come to me and the business isn't doing too well and they think branding is going to be the answer. Right. And there's been times when I've referred them on to you because I'm like, you don't really need branding. It would help, but you need business coaching. Like, you're not seeing things in this scenario
Sure,
as you should be. And I recommend you because you're like one-on-one, very specific to their problem, where, you know, there's benefit to the cohorts and all that sort of stuff, but you know, it's very different to have someone working with you one-on-one and addressing exactly what you need, exactly the way you need it. And like you said, for some people, you might have to unpack that a little bit more. For Joelle, you didn't need to. There's other things that you have to unpack for her, but you can kind of modulate that. So I think that speaks to what you do and why it's so effective, because I've never had anyone who comes to me after working with you who goes, I didn't really get anything out of it. It's always like, he set me on the path and now I'm ready to do this. I would much rather someone come to me after like 6 months of being coached through business and then come and do the brand, because chances are they're going to have a much clearer picture of what they want to create.
I just think this model of having people in mentorship or business coaching forever is just flawed. It's just like, no, I want to get, like we've talked, you and me have talked about this, I want to get fired. Like, my best moment is going to be getting fired from the client because they can now act autonomously. And if shit pops off in the future, they know how to get a hold of me and I'm there. But it's like,
which is really fun for me to create as a, like, because I'm doing the WTF Gym Talk branding, right? It's like, how do you design a brand that's designed to get fired? Like, that's awesome. And it's so counter to what we're told to do, because everyone's telling you gotta have like this many people on this much monthly retainer and blah blah blah. And it's like, are you solving their business problems or your own?
We just did one that called today. I was like, you know, blah, blah, blah. This will probably, my guess is you'll probably have this problem figured out in about 5 months, maybe sooner. And then, you know, you can fire me and we can still be internet friends. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to work with you. No offense. I don't want to fucking work with you forever. If I do that, I'm not that good. Like, if you constantly, and I think gym owners have a hard time in coaches because they think like getting fired equals cancellation equals bad. In my opinion, getting someone to, it's why, you know, you and me are such fans of the OPEX brand, like getting someone to autonomy in their fitness to where they stick around because they want to. Like, I've got clients that could easily have fired me. They have not. Now, granted, there's always something for us to be discussing in the business. And the longer it is, the more higher level it becomes. And those are more fun projects, like buying a building, starting a second or third company that's adjacent to the current one, and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
you get to solve different problems. I have a few of those. I have a few ongoing clients, like Beartooth Performance is one of them. We've spoken about them.
They're a client of mine too. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, they're awesome. And, you know, for them, it made sense. Spencer, like Behavior Performance Research, Jason, who we share, Arena Athletic Club, Hydra, like these are ongoing clients that I'll do something with every quarter. And it's because there's benefit to doing it. But often it's like catch and release. And I want to put the power of your brand in your hands. So you don't need me. But if you have other cool ideas and you're like, with Beartooth Performance, you know, they're going big on their strength school, which is, you know, their youth performance side. Like, let's work out those problems and bring branding to it. But this perpetually having someone there to kind of, it speaks to that mentality of like, I need someone else, I can't do it myself. And I think what you do is like, you got this and I'm here if you need me, but you can do it.
Yeah. And my business model doesn't revolve. I don't want people on this recurring thing for forever. I think people are afraid, as gym owners too, they're afraid to lose the client. Like, if there's another, trust me, there's another business gym, Microgym starting up today. And another one just happened. Another one just happened. Like, there's never going to be a shortage of work or a shortage of clients. Like, you know, when people cancel your gym, you can't get upset about that. It's two things. What is your average length of membership? What is your average lifetime client value? Did this person meet or exceed that? If they met the average or luckily hopefully exceeded it, you did a great job. There's no shame in that. Now, if they canceled well below the average length of membership and
And if
whatever.
there's several people doing that, then
then
there's a
we have
problem.
then there's an issue, right? But it's
Yeah.
it's all perspective, and it's like
Yeah.
this scarcity mindset of like, well, there's not that many clients out there, I don't want to let these people go. I'm like, no, trust me, there's plenty of fat people in this world for Mr. Gym Owner. You're gonna be just fine. You
Yeah.
said you wanted to help so many, you wanted to help as many people as you could. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The best way for you to help more people is for your current clients to cancel at a certain time, because you can't fit everybody in the building.
It's a good way to look at it,
Yeah, man.
100%, and seeing it as an opportunity. I want to give people one big takeaway from
Let's do it.
Moxie, both from Joelle as an operator, you as a coach, me as the branding guy. She bought into the idea that you can't be for everyone, right? You should not be for a generic everybody. You should be for a specific somebody. And essentially, just by making it a women's only gym, she cut out 50% of the population cannot attend her gym, right? You say that to someone who's like, everyone's my market, everyone's welcome here, and they think that's going to bring more money. No way. Like, Joelle's going to do better by cutting out 50% of the market, then laser focusing on this specific person who's a mom, who is also like sees herself a certain way, and she has her ideal client. My message is like, don't be afraid to niche down to the core of your business. Like, who can you serve better than anybody else can? Speak to that person, because they're out there, they exist, and they're willing to pay a premium. That's the
Boris,
message.
always with the good, the endings to these podcasts. Boris, where, if people are curious, I don't even know, again, I don't know where your wait list is on your working with you and stuff, but I'm gonna let people reach out and talk to you individually about their projects. Where can they get a hold of you?
Best way, email me, boris@metconcreative.com.au. Metconcreative.com.au is my website, and I'm at Metcon Creative on Instagram. Booking wise, I am booked up until April, but I'm taking bookings for then. So, and even if you want to have a conversation before that, I'm open to that. Are we going to talk about Equinox?
Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, real quick, give me your, so if you're not familiar, kids, just Google Equinox. I don't speak January. It was a just a marketing message that they sent out. They're always known for a little bit more elitist, more in your face kind of marketing. What was your take on we don't speak January?
Obvious douchebag campaign, 100% on brand for Equinox.
Yeah.
Right. They know exactly who their market is, and they know exactly how to do, like Donald Miller talks about it in Story Brand. They know who the enemy is. Yeah. The enemy is mediocrity. The enemy is you and me and the average person who thinks they're working out, but they're not like us, because I'm an elevated fitness practitioner, right? Like, I'm performing and I'm living an optimized life. It's like they're not going for Stu and Boris. They're going for Chad, and that's who they are. We all know that's who
Wall
they
Street traders, guys that are
100%.
Driving around in a Ferrari. Like, you're right. And so like
people who are going to go there as much as a status symbol as they are, like to them, it's that membership is also the country club membership.
Yes.
It's the Tesla, and the highest model of Tesla. It's everything. It's a status symbol. Their clientele would love that they can't come in there in January, and just start off there.
Yeah.
That's
the biggest number one, like, people like, oh, what do you think? It seems so elitist. I'm like, that's 100% what it's meant to be. You fucking like, of course it's elitist. Yeah. That's the whole point.
We don't speak January.
They want to be like, being elitist is not a negative. Like, again, I don't like being an asshole, in my opinion, is not a negative. If that's part of the brand that you're trying to curate, it's not a bad thing. I mean, look at what like Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports, so much of that is this brash asshole kind of thing. And be like, he's such an ass. I'm like, bingo. Like, that's the point. That's the whole point. That's what they want to be. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it's not an accurate representation of them being authentically who they are, and they've just done it consistently over time.
Like, and this is the thing, people were shocked. I can't believe they put this campaign out. Oh my God, we have an obesity crisis and blah, blah, blah. They've never been trying to solve that. They've always been the elite, like the guy you look at, you're like, oh my God, what a douchebag. And then he walks into Equinox. Like, that's
100%.
That I guarantee you, when they did the ideal client avatar exercise on their end, because be sure that they've done it. That's the client. That's 100% the client. The interesting flip of that. Sorry,
I can see Equinox pulling a move like in the future. I could see Equinox doing something elitist around cancellations and quitting the gym. The most elitist thing I ever saw when I first got into the CrossFit space, I worked out at the original Rogue Fitness. The original, but this is like Bill and them were just making some barbells in the back, and they had in the center of the floor, the gym floor, they had a rope and it had a bell at the top, very much like SEALs. And if you wanted to cancel the gym, you had to come in and you had to be able to climb the rope and ring the bell in order. And it had to be at the 6:30 p.m. because that's the busiest class time. You had to do it at 6:30 p.m. Otherwise, you're still going to keep getting charged.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but I mean, like, is that elitist? 1,000%. Do I think they probably? I mean, like, and also back there is like, well, what happens if someone couldn't climb a rope, bro? I was there in 2006. Everybody could climb a rope. Like the one thing about CrossFit early on, like early on, everybody was fit because it was only the fit people that would even. It was tip of the spear, super tip of the spear.
It was police guys, army guys, firemen. Like
100%.
these were already fit people who like the gym and the running wasn't enough.
I was the least fit guy, and I was just a sports like college weight room guy. And but yeah, no, I'm glad. Well, I'm glad that was your take on it.
Yeah, the last take that I have on it is so much free publicity from other gyms for them. I had so many people on my Instagram sharing it. We'll take your money in January. You know, we speak January. And I'm like, all you're doing is giving this reach. And the Equinox's ideal client is definitely on Instagram. And somewhere along the way, they might come across you advertising their douchey campaign, and it's going to resonate with this person. And they're going to go, I'm going to go to Equinox. So free publicity it was a genius move. Like I hate the message. I think it's elitist. I think it's everything that their brand is, but you know, it's what can you learn from it? Figure out exactly who you are, and then speak to that unapologetically. That's it.
Yeah, I did that video on Noble when Nathania Perez, she made a very, it was a very public thing that they wanted Noble to have double XL size clothing, and Noble said no. And I don't know if they've changed that since, but at the time, I saw this outrage and people like, no, they have to be inclusive. Like, no, they don't.
No, they don't.
Like, no, do I personally think it'd be a nice thing for them to do and whatever? Absolutely. Do I think there's someone who's wearing double, triple, who needs a triple XL Noble tee and they're in the gym every day busting their ass, and I am fucking cheering that person on. I am. But you cannot tell a brand that they have to do a thing. They are not they are not here for let's call it crusading. They're not here to move mountains. They're here to sell apparel, sell gym memberships to a very particular group of people. But exactly. We are.
Don't go to McDonald's asking for your macros.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Fuck yeah. That's a great comparison. Alrighty, Boris, thank you very much for coming on, man. We will do it again soon. Everybody, until I talk to you again in the next episode, have a great fucking day.
Thank you very much. Bye.